Where should we start? On this Monday edition of The Lunch Break, we welcome you in December 9th, 2024. A lot of football to unpack, some baseball to unpack, a lot of questions to be asked and hopefully answered here on the show today. We welcome you in. We hope you all had a fantastic weekend. And I said it in the tweet promoting the show before we got on the air here today. I don't know where we're going to go on today's show. We have a lot to discuss. There's a lot for us to unpack. There are franchise-altering questions that need to be answered here on the Monday edition of the program. We are going to attempt to sort through it all, and we are glad that you are going to join us today on this journey. Your way to join the show today, 480-864-1060 is the phone number. You can also join us on YouTube, KDUS AM 1060 over there, for the live video version of the program. I don't know what the next 2 hours are going to look like, folks, because there's good, there's bad, there's ugly. It is all going to be put together here over the course of this radio program. I guess this is where we will start today's show.
Time for our top story of the day. It's the Daily Special.
It's over. You can stick a fork in the Arizona Cardinals' playoff chances. Yes, mathematically, they have a 17% chance to make the playoffs, or whatever the numbers were that we shared to you at the end of last week, what the loss would do to their playoff odds. They're done. They're cooked. With that type of performance, with the way that they played in front of their home crowd, with everything in the balance, they are done. And with that performance yesterday, they opened up Pandora's box. They opened up a world of questions, some of which we are going to try to answer today, some of which will only get answered over the remaining 5 games or however many games they have left in this campaign, 4 games or so left in this campaign. But yesterday, the Cardinals, in front of you, in front of their home crowd, ended their playoff campaign. They ended their season. It's over. They're toast. With the backdrop of winning the football game being your pathway to controlling your fate, your destiny in the NFC West, having a soft schedule the remainder of the way. 2 of the 4 games you are going to play are against the Panthers and Patriots, top 10 right now in the NFL draft standings. That was what was in front of the Arizona Cardinals. And what did they do? Laid a goose egg. And not just any old goose egg. They laid the type of egg that is going to have us talking all week long. I don't know if we are going to preview their upcoming game the way that we would normally preview a Cardinals game, because there is so much to dissect from this game yesterday. Because I've been watching football a long time. One of the first sports I watched on a regular basis with my dad. It's a sport. Every Sunday, you know the drill. You sit down and you enjoy the entire spoils of a football Sunday. You get the yard work done early in the day, and you get ready. Being an East Coast guy, 1 o'clock rolls around, all these games start. Most times, football games aren't decided in the first quarter. Even in blowouts, even in games that get out of hand, they get out of hand late. And you still maybe go into the locker room at halftime a couple of adjustments away from being able to win a football game. The Arizona Cardinals yesterday were done in the first quarter. They were done in the first quarter because you had what could only be described as the perfect start to the game. You take the ball first, you start the game with the ball, and you go right down the field, and you do the thing that we have been waiting for this offense to do. You have the big play down the field. You have the shot. And it wasn't to Trey McBride. It wasn't to Marvin Harrison Jr., but it was a down-the-field shot to Michael Wilson. And you marched right down the field in quick order, got the big play, and you were up 7-0. The perfect start. How did your defense follow that up? Well, it's the Arizona Cardinals defense at home. It's what we've come to expect with this defense at home. Yeah, you might be able to move down the field on them, but you're not getting in the end zone. We're going to hold you to a field goal, and it's 7-3. And now you have the ball back after having that offensive drive, after having your defense hold in a goal-to-goal situation, and you had an opportunity right there. You march right down the field. It's 14-3. The crowd is into it. The Seahawks are feeling the pressure of being on the road. You have all the momentum in your corner. What happened after that can only be described as in a cartoon when the villain, the Wile E. Coyote, sets up the trap, and he is the one that's victim to his own trap. That's what happened to the Arizona Cardinals yesterday because Kyler Murray imploded in front of us all. He imploded. The Arizona Cardinals and their offense melted down yesterday. Kyler Murray melted down yesterday because 7-3 with the ball, a chance to take a 2-score lead. Do you know what Kyler Murray did? He threw a really bad interception and gave the Seahawks a short field. And what did the Seahawks do with that opportunity? And then what happened on the next drive? Another back-breaking interception that the Seahawks took in for points. That was it. That's the game. The first quarter is where this game was decided. A perfect start, the dream start, turned into an absolute nightmare. And that nightmare played out over the remainder of the game where the Cardinals couldn't get anything going offensively. The group that was supposed to be the strength of this team this season, the group that was supposed to keep them in games because their defense was going to probably give up points. Now, please, the defense had their faults yesterday. They gave up big plays. They couldn't tackle. They got carved up in the running game. They got carved up out of the backfield with dump passes to Zach Charbonnet. They certainly didn't help matters yesterday. But that's the game that we pointed out to you on Friday was going to determine a lot about the Jonathan Gannon era. It was the most important game that they have played since Gannon has taken over as the head coach. And that's the offensive display that we got in that football game. That is how this team started the first quarter. That is what they did for their season. Since the bye week, this team has not won a game. Went up to Seattle, played probably their worst game of the season, but still had a chance to win. Went to Minnesota, had a 2-score lead late into the third quarter, had a lead going into the fourth quarter, blew that game. Look at what the Minnesota Vikings did to the Atlanta Falcons yesterday on the scoreboard. And the Cardinals defense put the type of performance that they put on that team the week prior, and you couldn't win the football game. And then this week, you come home, your first home game after a bye, and you have an opportunity to wash the bad taste out of everybody's mouths for the way that you played for the last 2 weeks. And you know what you did? You made the bad taste even worse. Because what you did yesterday, by blowing that performance, by blowing that opportunity to take full control of the NFC West, is you opened up the door to have all of the conversations that we said were tabled, that we said were sidelined, that we're not going to have, that we were not going to have in this era with Jonathan Gannon, with Monty Ossenfort, and with Kyler Murray. All of those questions, they're back on the table. We are opening the door to have those conversations. We got to have a conversation about this coach. We got to have a conversation about this quarterback. And truthfully, we have to have a conversation about the direction of this team. Because I get it. A couple of weeks ago, we were singing the praises. We were singing the songs of this organization. And they deserved it at the time. But you know what? They hadn't done anything yet. They had to finish the job. And after going into the bye 6-4, this team has yet to win a football game. With the backdrop of the playoffs and a home playoff game, this team has found ways to lose every single week. And this past Sunday, the icing on top of the cake. Because in a game you had to have with all the pressure in the world, your quarterback came up short. Your quarterback imploded. Your quarterback melted down. Kyler Murray had a meltdown yesterday. That opens up a world of possibility for what the future of this team is going to look like. We will continue to unpack this over the course of the show because I'm not done with Kyler Murray just yet. I'm not done with thoughts on Kyler Murray's performance yesterday because everything's on the table now. Coming up on the other side, where I wanted to start the show today. I thought we were going to have a very happy start to the show today. I thought we were going to be able to come in here and talk about a great Saturday in football in the state of Arizona, a great Sunday for football in the state of Arizona, and it was going to be a joyous, a victory Monday. Instead, we had to start with whatever display we got yesterday from the Arizona Cardinals. But on the other side, your Big 12 champion Arizona State Sun Devils, your first round bye in the college football playoff, Arizona State Sun Devils. We will talk about everything that happened this weekend for ASU next on the lunch break, KDUS AM 1060. Oh, yeah, and the Suns had a disastrous weekend this weekend as well. It's days like this that I love and hate the job that I do because there's so much to do and so much to unpack. I wish it was more of the positive variety. I wish we were singing the praises of all of the teams. And so we're bouncing back and forth between, oh, this negative team over here, all this positive thing over here. In all of that, in all of what we did in the Open, we haven't even touched on the Phoenix Suns. Don't worry. I'm going to get my pound of flesh with them a little bit later on in the show. Don't you worry. That'll happen. It started off so great on Saturday. Woke up early, watched a little soccer in the morning, got to sit down, relax, and get ready to watch the Arizona State Sun Devils take on the Iowa State Cyclones in the Big 12 championship game. With the backdrop of a college football playoff spot on the line, you knew going into the game, UNLV did not do their job, so you were left with a win, and then you needed to be the biggest Clemson fan in the world to potentially open the door for that first-round bye. And what the Arizona State Sun Devils did on Saturday was let the world know this isn't a fluke. This is not – it is a fun story. It is somewhat of a Cinderella story. They belong in the college football playoff. They are not just a one-off fluke team. They, by what they did on Saturday, by taking an Iowa State team that was ranked one spot behind them in the standings, a team that had the same record as them going into this game, a team that had a similar resume to them. We talked how close we thought these two teams were going into the game on Saturday. You know what ASU thought of my analysis of Iowa State? They threw it in the trash can because they whooped Iowa State on Saturday, 45-19. They were all over this team. The turnovers were a big deal. Cam Scatabo was a big deal. How about 16 carries, 170 yards, and 2 touchdowns, including the first play of the game he takes for, 28 yards? They ran all over them. The play of the game for me, because we talked about the increase in pressure that this game provided for Arizona State. We talked about how everything up until this point has been great, but now the pressure builds to a place that we're going to see how this team reacts to it. We believed that they were going to respond well. We believed that they were going to handle things correctly. There's one play in the game that showed me this coaching staff, these players, this program was not fazed by the pressure because they had a 4th and 1, a 4th and inches early in the first half of this game. And not a surprise, Kenny's an aggressive coach. You knew that he was going to go for it. But what does he do? He pulls the old bait and switch because he has Scatabo in the backfield and everybody in the building. Guy selling popcorn in section 303 in the top of the building. The people taking tickets in front of AT&T Stadium. Coaches on both sidelines, including Kenny Dillingham. Everybody in the world knows what's happening here. We're just going to give the ball to Cam. We need half a yard. We need a yard. We're just going to give the ball to our running back who should be in New York for the Heisman Trophy ceremony. That's what we're going to do. And what does Kenny Dillingham do? He pulls a bait and switch and calls a play action and takes the deep shot down the field. Are you kidding me with that? There was your play to show you they didn't care that it was the Big 12 championship game. They didn't care who they were playing. They didn't care about the magnitude of the moment. They kept playing football the way they have been playing football all season. Jordan Tyson being on the sideline didn't matter. They continued to be who they've been all season long. And they sent a message to the committee. Oh, you're thinking about not giving us a bye? You're thinking about leaving us on the outside looking in? How about this? How about the team that you have directly behind us? We're going to blow them out 45-15. How about that? How about we're going to get to a place where we can sit our Heisman Trophy finalist running back, or at least should be Heisman Trophy finalist running back. We're going to sit him late in the game because we can, because we're up 45-19. We're going to put him on the sideline. ASU and Kenny Dillingham achieved something that everybody thought this program could be. And I am willing to make the leap here today on this show. There has been a phrase associated with this program forever. From the moment I stepped foot on the campus in 2012, there has been a phrase, and it predates me, but it's been at least for the last 12 years I've heard it. ASU has been referred to as a sleeping giant. They just needed the right set of circumstances, and they would be a sleeping giant in college athletics, specifically in college football. And every single time they had a moment or a chance to embrace that moniker, to embrace that vision, to embrace that identity, and actually follow through on the promise, they have failed. So much so that people have rightfully said we should stop using that phrase. It doesn't apply anymore. Guess what? Saturday, they put it on the table. They proved that they can be a sleeping giant. You know what? They are a sleeping giant because they're going to the college football playoff. You know who's not going to the college football playoff? Alabama's not going to the college football playoff. Miami's not going to the college football playoff. You know who is going to the college football playoff as a Power 4 conference champion? The Arizona State Sun Devils. Do you know who went from winning 3 games a year ago to changing conferences to winning that conference and being in the college football playoff? The Arizona State Sun Devils. Oregon moved conferences. They won the Big Ten. ASU said, we'll beat you to it. We'll do it first. We'll change conferences, and we'll win our championship before you can win your championship. How about that? What an impressive job by Kenny Dillingham and the Arizona State Sun Devils. And now they get to sit back. They get to enjoy Clemson, Texas, and they will play the winner of that game in the Peach Bowl in the quarterfinal with a spot in the college football playoff semifinals on the line. I don't know where this journey is going to take us. I don't know if a battle with Texas or Clemson is going to be the end of the road. You certainly would think that if they play Texas, they're not going to be favored in the game. It would be closer if they played Clemson, but you certainly think it is an uphill battle for Arizona State to continue this journey. But you know what I'm not going to do on this show? We are not going to doubt this team. We are going to enjoy the ride, because I'm here to tell you, the Cardinals ain't providing the ride. Suns ain't providing the ride. Those rides are down for maintenance. Those rides at the amusement park, closed. We have to completely tear those things down. We got to check on them because we got some maintenance to do. The Sun Devil ride, that train, no, fully operational. In fact, the wait line for it is growing by the day. And so ASU, I don't know where this journey is going to take us. But they have done the two things you set out for in college football. They won their conference championship. They're playing in the college football playoff. No matter how this journey ends, unless they run the table, it is going to end in a loss. Their season will end on a loss. Do not allow that to change the fact that this has been a remarkable season. This season is a success. Even if they get blown out by Clemson, blown out by Texas, you're going to hear all the people say, see, they didn't belong. See, this is what you get for giving automatic bids to conference champions. I want you to hear none of it because none of it matters. This season is a success. This season will go down in the history books. This season will not get lost the way 2014 gets lost. It will not get lost the way other good, solid ASU teams in the past have gotten lost. This team will forever be immortalized by being Big 12 champions their first year in the conference. They have more Big 12 championships than some members who have been there for over a decade. They did it in their first run. They weren't supposed to do this. This was not supposed to happen. Yet we get to continue to talk about ASU football, and we continue to talk about this Cinderella story. We continue to talk about this magical run that this program and this coach and these players have taken us for and have taken us on. There's at least one more game. We are not going to play the game here on this show of who would you rather face. You don't play that game. You don't do that. You just let the game play out the way it's going to play out, and you play whoever you're going to play, whether that's Clemson or whether that's Texas. You just play however the schedule breaks, and you take it one game at a time. Because here's the one thing I will say. You may be sitting at home, and this may be the place where you start to doubt this program, and this may be the place where you say, this is where the run ends. I would ask you this. Did you ever think this run was going to start in the first place? So the fact that we have this run going so far, you don't know how it's going to end. I don't know how it's going to end. We all don't know how it's going to end. This wasn't supposed to be the conversation. Anything after this is house money. And after what they did, and it's not just beating Iowa State, it's what they did to Iowa State. They embraced all of the talking points of, oh, this is where they're going to fail. Oh, this is where the moment is going to be too big for this program. This is nice, this is great, but this is going to be where it peaks out. They saw that and said, okay, sure. We'll show you 45-19 against the top 20 ranked program. That's what they did on Saturday. So Clemson, Texas, whoever's next, they're going to embrace that challenge as well. They are going to embrace that as an opportunity to continue to show the world that they are not to be messed with. Okay. We're going to take a break. We're going to cool off a little bit. It's a very hot start to the show. There's a lot to get into. There was other NFL action yesterday, and this is normally the time of the show where we do the NFL Rewind. This feels like a perfect time to stop yelling about ASU, to stop yelling about the Cardinals, and just react to what happened yesterday in Week 14 of the NFL season. So we will do that on the other side. This is the lunch break, KDUS, AM 1060. Man, it's days like today where you look up and the show just flies by. And we are already a half an hour into the show. I have not gotten to talk about the Phoenix Suns yet. I haven't gotten into where I'm at with Kyler Murray. We haven't gotten further into, oh, by the way, Juan Soto signed a mega deal in baseball late last night. I mean, it's days like today where you wish you had 6 hours to do radio. We are going to try to jam it all here into 2 hours. We appreciate you joining us here on the lunch break. KDUS AM 1060. Chris Schubert here with you for the next 90 minutes. We got you until 1 o'clock here today on the show. 480-864-1060 is the phone number. I'm sure you're a little annoyed at what the Cardinals did yesterday. I'm sure that you're out there upset about Kyler Murray. You're done. You're done with Kyler Murray. Here's your chance to explain why you're done with Kyler Murray. 480-864-1060. Meanwhile, there was other action in the NFL. There were other games that took place yesterday. Before the Cardinals played, while the Cardinals were playing, after the Cardinals played. We go around the NFL, and we do it with the NFL Rewind. My thoughts on all of the Week 14 action, and we start with, I told you. I told everybody, do yourself a solid. Make sure you clear the schedule, and you sit down and you enjoy Jags-Titans for everything that it was going to be. And boy, did it deliver. How about a nice 10-6 contest that saw the Titans with a 6-0 lead going into the fourth quarter, but the Jags with 10 fourth quarter points. They stop a late run by the Tennessee Titans, and they now win their third game of the season, potentially one of the worst wins you could have had if you're the Jags. You lose that game, you right now had the top spot in the NFL draft. By winning that game, you fell all the way to number 3. You lost your opportunity to hold the draft in the palm of your hand. Not because you were going to replace Trevor Lawrence, but it was going to be everybody tripping over each other to try to jump into that spot. The Raiders and Giants are directly behind you. They want quarterbacks. Other teams behind those two teams want quarterbacks. So just trade with the Jags. That loss, or that win, I should say, a big loss for the Jags as they move to 3-10. The Titans fall to 3-10. How about an overtime thriller? The Dolphins beat the Jets 22-26 in overtime to keep their playoff hopes alive. They move to 6-7. They stay mathematically in the AFC playoff race. The New York Jets, they fall to 3-10. They have not won in Miami since 2015, and with this loss, they are officially eliminated from the playoffs, extending their professional sports record 14th straight season without making the playoffs. That is a record right now in all of professional sports. They have the longest drought in professional sports, 14 consecutive years without making the playoffs. That will continue after that loss on Sunday. They had a 26-23 lead late. Bad special teams play led to a kickoff return, and then the Dolphins were able to get into field goal range. They kicked the field goal. They went into overtime. They went right down the field and scored a touchdown to walk it off 32-26. Okay. I'm ready to say it. I am ready to make the claim here today to you. It's 2 claims, actually. Minnesota Vikings are for real. No, I'm not just saying that because they put a 42 spot on the Atlanta Falcons. And I get it. It's the Atlanta Falcons. That's part 2 of the 2 claims we're going to make. You're 11-2. You deserve the respect of being taken seriously. Because not only are you Chiefs-like because you just find ways to win, but you do things like that. And Sam Darnold throws for 347 yards and 5 touchdowns. We need to be talking about Sam Darnold, the MVP conversation, because they're not 11-2 without him playing the way that he's playing. And it looks like he is in line for a massive payday. Some team is going to sign Sam Darnold to a 3 or a 4-year deal, probably in a similar vein to the deal that Kirk Cousins from the Atlanta Falcons. That's how good Sam Darnold has played. He is going to go somewhere. Think of all the teams in your head that need a quarterback. The Raiders, the Giants perhaps. Go through all of the teams that you think might need a quarterback. The Browns. Think of everybody. Sam Darnold is going to go somewhere and make a lot of money because he is playing his way into the upper echelon of quarterback dollars and quarterback contracts. For the Atlanta Falcons, this team is the most middle-of-the-road team of all time. They added Kirk Cousins. It was supposed to be the thing that took them over the top. And instead, he might be the thing that's holding this team back. Another game with multiple interceptions. They're 6-7. They, despite beating the Bucs both times this year, have handed over the division to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and are now one game back in that division. They're just not a good football team. And they're not a good football team because their quarterback isn't playing to the standard that you paid him for. And there were talks, I heard it on Money Moves right before we went on the air, conversation about Michael Penix taking over. You paid him 4 years, $180 million? Paid him a lot of guaranteed money. And after year one, not even. You're considering making a change and going to Michael Penix Jr.? That is not a good place to be. That team is not playing well. The Minnesota Vikings are playing well. They moved to 11-2, and they are just trying to keep pace with the Detroit Lions. This one hurts. We had this as part of the Schubert Six, and I knew going into the game that we were tempting fate because the Saints aren't a very good team. They were traveling on the road. The Giants are bad. The Giants weren't playing for anything. It was less than a touchdown. I felt pretty strongly that the Saints could cover less than a touchdown. I should have known better. I should have known that the Saints were going to Saints, and they were going to keep this game closer than it had any right being. And the Giants pulled off the ultimate tank performance. They kept the game close. Drew Lock led them on the drive to set up Graham Gano to kick the field goal, to tie the game, to force it into overtime. And Graham Gano, I don't know if he's on Team Tank. I don't know if he was in on it. But Saints special teams comes up with the field goal block. And the Saints hold on to win 14-11. They move to 5-8. The Giants fall to 2-11. And they continue something we talked about in the NFL Look Ahead on Friday. They still haven't won at home this year. 0-7 at home this season. And it was ugly. Banners flying over the stadium before the game, asking the owner, Mr. Mara, to end the misery, to fire the coach, fire the GM, make wholesale changes, turn this thing around. Don't know if it will take place after losing to the Saints at home, but 2-11, 0-7 at home, not a good year for Brian Daboll and the New York Giants. The pesky Panthers, that's what we're going to refer to them as, because that's what they are. We knew the number was big. It was our 1-point play in the Schubert Six. It was our 1-point play because we were kind of afraid of this. It was just such a big number. The Eagles didn't play well, but you know who did play well? Bryce Young continues to play excellent football, and he continues to thrive for this team in really important moments. He takes this team down the field and showcases that in these pressure-packed moments, he can make plays. Adam Thielen has become somewhat of his safety blanket. 9 catches for 102 yards yesterday. They didn't win the game. They haven't won the last 3 weeks, but this is a very different Panthers team than we saw at the start of the year. The benching of Bryce Young and then him being inserted back into the lineup seemingly has worked wonders. They look like a different team. Is it turning into results? No. But at this stage, do the results matter? Because I think you're sticking with Bryce Young as your quarterback with the way that he has played over the last couple of weeks and the way this offense has looked. It hasn't turned into results, but I think you have your quarterback that you're going to build around. And for the Eagles, it's not pretty. It's a victory. You put it in your back pocket. Saquon Barkley, another 120-plus yard game on the ground. Eric Dickerson's single-season rushing record, look out, because it's certainly in play. The Eagles move to 11-2 with their 22-16 victory over the Panthers. The Steelers beat the Browns 27-14. It's our 6-point play. So we had a 2-3 weekend. We've got one more game tonight to try to get us out of the cellar to get us to 3-3, and we'll just call it a nice little wash after the week that we had last week. But the Steelers, it didn't look pretty early. Jameis gave us the gift that we asked for, threw a pick, turned it into a short field for the Steelers. That was all she wrote. The Steelers get to double-digit wins. They're 10-3. They have the Eagles up next, so they really needed this one to get to double-digit wins because not so sure they're going to be able to defeat the Philadelphia Eagles, and then that might open the door a little bit for the Baltimore Ravens to make this division closer, to make it competitive down the stretch. So they needed this one to put it in their back pocket to get to 10 victories on the year. They do so by beating the Browns 27-14. The Bucs, they take over first place in the NFC South with their 28-13 victory. The problem, though, they lose Bucky Irving during this game. He has been such a bright spot for this offense. Baker, another 3-touchdown performance for him yesterday. Bucky Irving was starting to emerge as the top running back in this room. They also had Rashad White, who had a good day yesterday after coming in and taking on a majority of the workload. Not sure how long Bucky Irving, if he will miss any time at all, will be out for, but he did leave that game. Was not a problem for the Bucs as they poured it on late to win 28-13. You know, that we said, hey, Bills, here's your chance. Here's your moment. Close the gap on the Chiefs, put pressure on them going into Sunday night. What did the Bills do? They go into LA and Puka Nacua goes for 162 and a touchdown. Kyron Williams adds 2 touchdowns on the ground. Matt Stafford looked really good. Now the final score said 44-42, and the Bills outscored the Rams 21-6 in the fourth quarter to make this game close, but the Rams controlled this game. The Rams moved to 7-6. They are now in the NFC West race. Them and the Seahawks will be trading blows here back and forth because the Cardinals are out. We made that claim at the top of the show. And after the 49ers beat the Bears 38-13, look what happens when you don't play in the snow. You're able to look like the offense that you're supposed to be. They blow the doors off the Bears. They get to 6-7. So you have the Cardinals at 6-7, the 49ers at 6-7, and then you have the Seahawks and the Rams at 7-6. It's still very congested there in the NFC West, excuse me. And then on Sunday Night Football, do you know producer Dylan, Breaking Bad? Yay, nay, you've seen it? Yeah, you got the thumbs up. You know the scene? He can't keep getting away with this? That's the Kansas City Chiefs, everybody. They can't keep getting away with this. They play terrible football. Their offense looks lost at times. They abandon the run. They don't have the skill position players that they've had in recent years. They don't look like a team that is going to be able to go for a three-peat. Yet you look up at the end of the game, there they are celebrating a victory. Winners of the division clinch the AFC West, 12-1, the top seed. They didn't cover the 4. We told you that on Friday. We weren't touching it with a 10-foot pole. It's unbelievable what they do. The game-winning field goal hits off the crossbar. It's just... Now, that was my fantasy kicker, and I needed him to make it because I'm trying to make a comeback. I got Jamar Chase tonight to try to hold on to a really important seed in the playoff race. But are you kidding me? They just continue over and over and over again to get away with this stuff. And you just look up, they're 7-0 at home, they're 12-1 on the season. They've locked up the AFC West. They're the top seed right now. They have a 2-game cushion for that. The playoffs are going to run through Arrowhead, and while it's not impressive, and while I worry that it's going to fall apart in the postseason, how can you say that? They just seemingly find ways to win. It is unbelievable. That is your Week 14 NFL Rewind. One more game tonight, really important one. It is I believe it is our 4-point play this week. We have the Bengals against the Cowboys. Bengals -5 is one of our play. It's one of our plays. It is our play to get us to 3-3. That is all I know. I forget the point allocation from Friday, but it is a very important play for us. We lost the Eagles. We lost the Cardinals. That was our 2-point play. We won our 3-point play and our 6-point play. And this is either our 4-point play or our 5-point play. Our 5-point play was the Saints. So yes, this is our 4-point play. So this is to finish with 13 points out of a possible 21, to be 3-3, and to not completely embarrass ourselves after we had a 4-2 week the week prior. So that is what is on the docket for tonight. That is how Week 14 will wrap up, and then we move into Week 15, where all these playoff clinching scenarios appear for the rest of the NFL. Coming up on the other side, we wrap up hour number 1. I wasn't going to do a full hour of this program without talking about it. We need to have a conversation about the Phoenix Suns. We're going to do it next here on the lunch break, KDUS AM 1060. Okay, it's time to talk about it. Welcome back to the lunch break. KDUS AM 1060. Chris Schubert here with you. Appreciate you joining us here on the Monday edition of the program. 480-864-1060 is the phone number. You can also join us on YouTube, KDUS AM 1060 over there. If you're over there watching us, make sure you hit that subscribe button. We post all of the shows in digestible chunk form based on the sport, based on the topic. So if you want to catch up on anything that we talk about here on the show, you can do so over there as well. It's a stretch that we said going into it, the Suns needed to be 2-1 or 3-0. That's what we said. We said Kevin Durant sidelined for at least the next week. He will be reevaluated on Wednesday, and we will see if it's going to end up being a longer absence for Kevin Durant. But we said we know for certain he is going to miss at least the next 3 games. What do the Suns need to do over those next 3 games? You're playing a bad Pelicans team that was 4-18 going into the game. You were playing a middle-of-the-road Heat team, and you were playing a decent Orlando Magic team in the Eastern Conference. You needed to go 2-1 or 3-0. You needed to prove to all of us that even though Kevin Durant is sidelined, yes, that's a big loss. Yes, Kevin Durant is a star. He is a superstar. He is a major cog to this team. You are still a talented basketball team. You still have 2 superstars in Devin Booker and Bradley Beal. You should be able to win 2 of 3 during this stretch. Yes, all 3 games were on the road. Yes, it wasn't like you were playing a completely cupcake schedule of a bunch of teams below 500, but this was an achievable task because it was going to show us. It was going to give us something to buy into. It was going to give us the fuel to say, you know what? This year's different. This year is not the Suns of 2023 and 2024. This version of the Phoenix Suns can overcome the loss of one of these guys. They do have the depth. They do have the talent. They do have the coaching to be able to overcome something like this in a small sample size when playing these types of opponents. That's what we were looking for. That's what we were asking for. We weren't asking you to go out there and blow everybody out by 40 points and make a statement and look like the best team in all of basketball. We were just asking you to give us something to believe in, to give us something that we could come onto this show and say, okay, this team is different than they were last year. This team has solved the problems that plagued them last year. They're a deeper team. They can handle these things better. They have a coach who is able to look at these situations and pull the right strings and push the right buttons, and they're able to get by. They're able to get through these moments. What did the Phoenix Suns do during this 3-game stretch when that was the presentation that we made? We said, this is what you need to do to get us to buy in. This is what we would like to see. This is what we expect to see. What did the Phoenix Suns do with that presentation? They shredded it because they went 0-3. The 2-point loss to a 4-18 team at the time. A 10-point loss to the Heat, and then a 5-point loss last night to the Orlando Magic. They couldn't even win 1 game in this stretch. They couldn't even give us a little bit of breadcrumbs to try to paint a rosy picture here today. I can't even begin to try to paint this in a good light. It's impossible. You have Devin Booker. You have Bradley Beal. You don't have Kevin Durant. And this is what you do for 3 games. You fall all the way to the 10 seed in the Western Conference. You now are a half game in front of being out of the playoffs. That is what you did over the weekend. 3-0, 2-1 was what they needed to do. They went 0-3. And so the only logical reaction to this, the only thing that I can say about this team, they've fallen to, I think, 1-9 when Durant doesn't play this season. So they are now 12-11 on the season, right? 12-11 on the season. We mentioned to you that they are now the 10 seed in the Western Conference. So on the doorstep of being out of the play-in tournament. They're on the doorstep of being out of the play-in tournament. They are now 1-9 without Durant this season. 12-11 on the year, 1-9 when he doesn't play. And let's do some quick math. What's 12 minus 1? That's 11. What's 11 minus 9? That's 2. 11-2 when Kevin Durant plays. 11-2 when he plays. 1-9 when he doesn't. There's only one thing to say. This team, despite having Devin Booker, despite having Bradley Beal, despite having all the depth that they went out and acquired, Tyus Jones and signing Grayson Allen to the extension and Yusuf Nurkic and drafting Ryan Dunn, all of the pieces that they put together for this team. This team is a non-playoff team without Kevin Durant. This is Kevin Durant or bust. That's an indictment on Devin Booker. That is an indictment on Bradley Beal. This team goes nowhere without Kevin Durant. This team is nothing without Kevin Durant. Devin Booker and Bradley Beal have shown us over the last 3 games they cannot carry this team. They need Kevin Durant. The Phoenix Suns need Kevin Durant to just be relevant in the Western Conference. Because without him, they don't have the talent. They don't have the ability to be a playoff team. They're 1-9 when Durant doesn't play. That's a lottery team. That's worrying about ping pong balls. That's worrying about logos in an envelope. That's what the Phoenix Suns are without Kevin Durant. And I was told that this was more than just Kevin Durant, because you have Devin Booker, who's supposed to be taken seriously as a superstar, and Bradley Beal, who's supposed to be taken seriously as the missing piece to this championship team. And I'm supposed to believe in the depth and all of the things that this team did this offseason, getting the right coach, adding the depth that we didn't think was possible, doing all of this stuff, and it all comes back to the same thing. Without Kevin Durant, this team, like Kendrick Perkins said, the clip that we played last week, they're a lottery team when he doesn't play. A lottery team. Bradley Beal didn't step up. Devin Booker hasn't stepped up. 0-3. You better hope that when they reevaluate Kevin Durant later this week that he's able to come back. Because the rest of December is not easy for this team. Because they play the Jazz on the road on Friday. They have off till Friday. The Jazz are 5-18. I just watched you lose on the road to a 4-18 team. Nothing's off the table at this point. You're going to play Portland on Sunday. They're 8-16. You've got games the rest of this month. Denver, Dallas, Golden State. You don't have Kevin Durant for those games? We might be talking about a team. We may be having a conversation about the team that is towards the bottom of the Western Conference. They went 0-3 without Kevin Durant over this stretch. What's going to happen when they play Denver? What's going to happen when they play Golden State? What's going to happen when they play Dallas? They're 12-11. The 2 teams behind them, the Spurs at 12-12, the Kings at 12-13. The Phoenix Suns are a game and a half removed from being 4th from the bottom in the Western Conference. The Phoenix Suns right now are closer to the Portland Trailblazers, who were 8-16, than they are to the 7-seeded Denver Nuggets and the 6-seeded LA Clippers. There's a 4-game difference between where the Phoenix Suns sit and the Portland Trailblazers sit. Trailblazers are 10.5 back in the Western Conference. The Suns are 6 back at the top spot. There's a 4.5 game. There's 4.5 games between the Suns and the Trailblazers. The Phoenix Suns are a dumpster fire right now. I understand how important Kevin Durant is. I understand how talented Kevin Durant is. Any team that loses a superstar of that caliber is going to hit bumps in the road. But I was told that this was a big 3. I was told that Bradley Beal was the missing piece. I was told Devin Booker is a superstar. I was told, despite my computer wanting to just make noises at me, because they'd also agreed, that Devin Booker and Bradley Beal are supposed to be able to hold things down if Kevin Durant has to miss a couple of games. They're supposed to be to superstar caliber. They're supposed to be able to win games against the Pelicans. They're supposed to be able to win games against the Heat. They're supposed to be able to do that. That's supposed to be something that they are able to get done. They went 0-3. They fell to the 10 seed in the Western Conference. They're 1-9 when Kevin Durant doesn't play. They're a lottery team if Kevin Durant isn't in this lineup. That says a lot about Kevin Durant and how important he is. But personally, for us here on this show, for the conversation that we're having, it says a lot more about the two superstars, quote-unquote superstars, that are currently on the floor for the Phoenix Suns. You should be able to win basketball games against the Pelicans without Kevin Durant. You should be able to beat the Miami Heat without Kevin Durant. Because if you can't do that, and yes, if they don't have Kevin Durant, then their season's cooked. I think we've learned that. They're done. But that was what everybody warned about when they decided to run this back. And they were supposed to fix some of the problems that plagued this team when those guys were out because they didn't have the depth. They tried to add that depth. 6 games back of the top seed. 4.5 games away from being the third worst team in the Western Conference. There's 4 games separating them and the 2 seed. The 2 seed Memphis Grizzlies are 2 games back of the Oklahoma City Thunder. The Suns are 6 games back. There's 4 games between the 10 seed and the 2 seed. There's 4.5 games between the Suns and the third worst spot in the Western Conference. That's what the Suns are letting slip away. All because the 2 other superstars that they're supposed to have as part of this big 3 can't give us anything to believe in. So you know what? We said it on Friday. This team, they got to show it. They got to prove it. And so far, they're flunking the test. They are failing the test in a big way right now. Hopefully quarter 2 is a lot better for them than quarter 1 because the grade on the report card for quarter number 1, not very good. Hour number 1 of the show in the books. I'll make sure the computer stops making noise during the break. Hour number 2 up next, the lunch break, KDUS, AM 1060. We start hour number 2 of the program where we started hour number 1 of the program, that being the Arizona Cardinals and their loss to the Seattle Seahawks at home, all but ending their chances of making the postseason. Mathematically still possible, mathematically still a 17% chance, and you certainly expect those odds to probably go up over the next 2 weeks while they play the Panthers and the Patriots, assuming they win those games. It will certainly increase their chances. Their odds will go up a little bit, probably, because they're going to be playing lesser opponents than Seattle will be playing, than the Rams will be playing, and that will open the door a little bit. But I, along with many others, believe yesterday was the nail in the coffin. That yesterday was the end of the line, the end of the road for the Cardinals and their playoff hopes. Because, yes, they play the Panthers and Patriots over the next couple of weeks, but they're 0-3 coming out of the bye. They have looked like a shell of the team that won 4 in a row. They look nothing like the 6-4 operation that went into their bye week in first place, having all of the nice pieces get written about them, have all the nice words be spoken about them, and be in pole position to start the second half of their season. 6-4 going into the bye. The world was their oyster. They opened against Seattle. That was their chance to really stamp their mark on the NFC West. They didn't do that. An opportunity to bounce back against Minnesota, blew that in the fourth quarter. And then there was yesterday. And the place that I ended up after the game yesterday, and I get it if it's the place that you ended up yesterday, if it is a thought that you are currently having today, after maybe pushing the thought to the side at the start of the year, at the end of last year, you maybe pushed this thought away and said it no longer applies. We on this show said it no longer applied. I think it might apply again. Because I think we need to have a conversation if this Cardinals team has a ceiling with Kyler Murray as their quarterback. And if that ceiling is a middle of the road, kind of around 500 team that doesn't come through in a big moment. And if that is the ceiling, if they do truly have a ceiling with Kyler Murray as their quarterback, then we might need to have some tough conversations about what the future for Kyler Murray looks like. Now, the contract is what the contract is. There's not an out after this year. The dead cap money would be absurd. I think it would be north of $50 million if they tried to move on from him after this season. So you're probably at least running this back in 2025 unless a opportunity presents itself where there's another team that wants to trade for that contract. But I believe we are at a point, we are at a place in time where it is extremely reasonable to have reservations about where this team can go with Kyler Murray. Because 6-4, going into the bye week, coming out of the bye week, everything in front of you, all of the opportunity in the world, and week after week after week, 3 consecutive weeks coming out of the bye, this team and Kyler Murray have come up short. He came up short in Seattle with the pick 6 that broke the game open. He came up short in the final drive of Minnesota, not getting his team in position to kick a field goal. And he came up short yesterday with 2 back-breaking interceptions. He ended the Cardinals season yesterday with that performance in the first quarter. Because you start the game so well, go up 7-0, have a great drive to start the game. He makes a big throw to Michael Wilson, and you have a lead. Your defense holds. The defense does what it's been doing at home since the Chargers game in October. They don't give up touchdowns. It's 7-3. And you then throw the pick to set up Seattle for a short field. Then they take the lead. They go up 10-7. Okay, not ideal, but you went down the field on your first drive. You went down the field, and you took a lead. You had a big play. You had a 7-0 lead at home. The crowd was into it. The crowd was excited. They were starting to feel like, yes, we are finally going to respond to this team. We are going to take it to Seattle. You go 6 plays, 70 yards in 3 minutes. Then you throw the interception, and it's 1 play later. Seattle takes the lead. So it's 10-7. You get the ball back. Okay, we'll flush it. It's a bad throw, bad decision. It's still a 10-7 game. We just showed on the first drive. We've got the big play. Our offense, we can do this. And then it is another interception. It is back-to-back drives with an interception, and it is back-to-back drives that absolutely end the season for the Cardinals. Because you give the Seahawks those 2 turnovers, they turn both of them into touchdowns, and it is 17-7. The game was over there. The game was over right there. I know they attempted to make it close late. I got all that. It was over in the first quarter because Kyler Murray threw 2 bad interceptions. The same way he threw a bad interception against Seattle the first time they played coming out of the bye. And it seems like every week when we talk about this is a moment for Kyler Murray, this is the most pressure he's going to face all year. How does he respond to the pressure? It feels like he always puts in his worst performance in these games. Seattle was his worst performance to date. Now it is this game against Seattle that is his worst performance to date. And it is the performance that might have just sunk the Cardinals season. Because in order for you to think that there's still a chance here, in order for you to think that this team can turn things around, you are saying they are going to run the table. You are saying that they are going to go 4-0. They're going to beat the Patriots. They're going to beat the Panthers. They're going to beat the Rams. They're going to beat the 49ers. That is who is left on their schedule. If you believe that they still have a chance, then you believe they are going to run the table. And I ask you, what about the last 3 weeks out of the bye week that was supposed to be this rejuvenation for this team, a great mental reset after you worked so hard in the hard part of your schedule to get to 6-4, and this is supposed to be where things let up. This is supposed to be where things got easy for you. You are 0-3. So you are now asking me to buy back in to the team that won 4 in a row earlier this year. I can't do it. They might win against the Patriots on Sunday. They might go to Carolina and win, and they might get to 8-7, and they might open up all the possibilities. But then that means they are back in divisional clashes against the Rams and the 49ers with their season on the line. And I'm here to tell you, I've seen this story before. I've seen it twice this year against a divisional opponent in a big spot. So until we get there with Kyler Murray, until we get there where he comes through in a big moment in crunch time with this team's season on the line, important December football games, until I see it, it's hard to believe it. So I think yesterday opened the door for us to have the conversation about Kyler Murray. And he took responsibility for it, and I appreciate that for him. He, in years past, maybe wouldn't have done that. He put it all on himself, rightfully so. He threw the 2 bad interceptions. But that's not good enough. You can't win football games at the podium. You can't win football games by taking responsibility when you make mistakes. You have to not make those mistakes. And it feels like we are constantly in this spot with the Arizona Cardinals. We'll get back into this here in just a little bit. But on the other side, Juan Soto signed his deal, and in the process, might have changed baseball. That's next on the lunch break, KDUS AM 1060. The baseball world upended last night as we finally got a resolution to the Juan Soto situation. I think opening the door for there to be a flurry of moves as the winter meetings begin in Dallas today. So I fully expect these moves to be quick, fast, furious. A lot of activity. I think over the next 36, 72 hours, over the next couple of days, I think you're going to see a lot of movement now that Juan Soto has landed where he has landed. That destination, the New York Mets, a 15-year, $765 million deal. It is the largest deal in professional sports history. There is an opt-out after the 5th season to this deal, and if he chooses to opt out, the Mets can void that opt-out by adding $4 million a year to the final 10 years of the deal, so taking it from its current value of $51 million a season up to $55 million a season, which would take the total value of the contract to $805 million. The deal also includes a $75 million signing bonus. There are a lot of layers to this onion. I think layer number one, we can talk about how this is the richest contract in professional sports. It is more money than Shohei Ohtani got. It is more money than Aaron Judge got. It is more money than anybody else in any other professional sport has ever gotten. Juan Soto, 26 years old, has set a new bar for other people to attempt to clear. And it is a unique circumstance because I don't think anybody would say that Juan Soto is better than Shohei Ohtani. But it is a unique circumstance of a player hitting free agency at this age. You very rarely see in this sport players hit free agency at 26 years old. Most ball players go to college. Most ball players are 3 or 4 year players at college. That takes them into being 21 or 22. They get drafted. They go into the minor league system, the farm. They're there for 3 or 4 seasons. That takes us to 25, 26 years old. Then they're playing a couple years in the big leagues. So we're talking free agency 29, 30, 31 when players maybe get their first taste of free agency. It's not like the way it is in other sports. Baseball is unique in that regard. So to have somebody hit free agency at 26 tells you everything you need to know about how unique and how much of a unicorn Juan Soto is. Signed when he was 16 years old, was in the big leagues by the time he was 19 years old, and that clock for him to hit free agency started to run. And now he hit free agency at 26 years of age and cashed in at a deal that could be worth upwards of $805 million. 15 years, $765 million. The New York Mets are the team that land him. And that's the other layer to all of this because baseball changed last night. And yes, I have to put my biases on the table. I'm wearing my New York Mets cap today. I am overjoyed at what occurred last night, that Juan Soto will be joining the baseball team that I watch, that I root for on a regular basis. So there is a bias here. But baseball changed last night because everybody's worried about the Dodgers. Everybody normally worries about the Yankees. There is a new team to worry about when it comes to throwing around big money. The New York Mets have joined that table. And the more teams you have that spend at that end, it makes it more difficult for teams like the Arizona Diamondbacks, like the Kansas City Royals, like the Tampa Bay Rays, like the Cleveland Guardians. You name a small to medium market team, it makes it all that more difficult for them to succeed. So baseball changed last night because Steve Cohen made a decision. And the decision that he made was he wanted Juan Soto to be a New York Met, and there was not a price that he wasn't willing to go to land the player that he wanted. And that number was $765 million over 15 years. The Yankees offered 16 years at $760 million. And Juan Soto looked at those two contracts and decided to pick the New York Mets over the New York Yankees. That also has never happened in baseball. A seismic shift happened last night in baseball because the New York Mets joined the party in a big way. So how does this impact the rest of free agency? How does this impact the Arizona Diamondbacks? Well, it's not good. You already have the Dodgers to worry about in your division, and the New York Mets just showed that they're going to be major players after making it to the NLCS last year. They are retooling. They are rebuilding. They are trying to push their chips further into the middle to try to run it back in a big way in 2025. So they are another power player. The Phillies are a power player. The Braves will look to have a healthy year that makes them one of the power players. The Diamondbacks are behind all of those teams. The Dodgers have to be the standard bearer. They have to be the top team in the National League. The defending World Series champions have improved their team by adding Blake Snell. They're running it back. They're going to get Shohei Ohtani in their rotation next year. They are going to be an even better version of the team that won the World Series. It does not guarantee a repeat, but they are going to be a better version of themselves next season. So they're the top. The tier below them, I think you put the Phillies, I think you put the Padres, and I think you put a healthy Braves team in the tier right below them. The tier below that, I think the New York Mets sit by themselves. I would not be surprised if by the end of this offseason, the Mets, with the moves that are expected to be made the rest of the offseason, push themselves up into that next group of teams that are vying to be the threat to the Dodgers. Below that, it's probably where the Diamondbacks sit. It's probably where the Brewers sit. It's probably where the Giants are looking to sit. They made a big move over the weekend, signing Willy Adames to a deal. So there's money being spent in the National League. There's money being spent in the NL West. So far, it's been very quiet for Mike Hazen and the Arizona Diamondbacks. That should not be that much of a surprise. They weren't going after Willy Adames. They weren't going after Juan Soto. I thought they could have made a play for Tyler O'Neill, who signed over the weekend, signed with the Baltimore Orioles. I think that was a great deal for Baltimore. So some names are coming off the board. Not a ton of names in the area that the Diamondbacks would be shopping in. But now that Juan Soto is off the board, now that Willy Adames is off the board, now that Tyler O'Neill is off the board, this market is about to heat up. So do yourself a favor. If you're allowed to at your place of work, you're going to want to have Twitter open. You're going to want to have social media open because these things are going to happen quickly. Pete Alonso, Christian Walker, they're the pivots for the teams, the Blue Jays, the Yankees, the Red Sox, the teams that missed on Juan Soto, the teams that are not the New York Mets. I'll take a victory lap today, if you'll allow me to. It's a very weird day. The Cardinals making it very difficult to do this show, but my college university going to the college football playoff, my baseball team signed Juan Soto. It's a very weird Monday for me today. But all the teams that missed on Juan Soto are going to talk to Pete Alonso, are going to talk to Christian Walker. They're going to gauge the trade market. This stuff is about to happen very, very quickly. So you're going to want to have social media open. You're going to want to be keeping tabs on this because these moves, there's a pitching move that happened today. Jordan Romano signed with the Phillies on a one-year deal. These things are happening very, very quickly. And now that Juan Soto signed for $765 million, it allows all those teams that really were putting all of their eggs in that basket. That is where most of their time and energy and resources was going because they wanted to close that deal. They wanted to get to a place where Juan Soto picked them over everybody else. Those teams now have to go back to the drawing board. They have to go back to plan B. And those plan Bs include Christian Walker. They include Pete Alonso. They include Teoscar Hernandez, Anthony Santander, all of the potential options. The ripple effect is if those teams pivot and they spend maybe a little bit more than they're comfortable with, that then prices out the Arizona Diamondbacks. So here is my advice to you as a Diamondbacks fan here today on this show. You need to be patient. You need to understand that there are going to be big names that come off the board, and it might include Christian Walker. Christian Walker might be priced out of Arizona. We've warned you about that possibility all throughout this offseason, that there is a chance he could get $25 million a season, and I don't think that is that is not the end of the pool that the Diamondbacks, I think, are going to be swimming in this offseason. They might surprise me. They might prove me wrong. I will happily be wrong because I think that would be a good, shrewd move by the Arizona Diamondbacks to bring back Christian Walker. But be patient because if there's one thing that I believe in, it's this general manager. There is a track record of him being able to navigate these difficult times, to navigate the free agent market. More importantly, keep your eye on the trade market. Keep your eye on being able to acquire players by just giving up prospects, by not necessarily having to hand over a lot of cash. That's where Mike Hazen, I think, is going to be at his best. That is where I think you are going to see the Diamondbacks be able to strike. They are going to look at the free agent market. They need a DH. They need an outfielder. They need a first baseman. I think they want to add a reliever. The list is long. But don't be surprised if Mike Hazen does something that makes you raise an eyebrow a little bit via the trade market. Keep an eye on that. Because that is where I think good general managers, great general managers, are able to improve their team when maybe they're handicapped by limited resources. So Mike Hazen's going to be working the phones. Mike Hazen's going to be talking to agents. He's going to be talking to players. He's going to try to put together a path. Here's what I think is a good thing for the Arizona Diamondbacks. A lot of teams last night, when Juan Soto picked the New York Mets over them, they now had to pivot to their plan B, plan C, plan D. I don't know necessarily what the plan A or B or C or D was for the Arizona Diamondbacks, but I feel pretty strongly to say that their ideal offseason, their dream offseason, is probably still in play. The names that they are probably interested in are still on the board. The avenues that they thought were possible for them to improve their team for next season, those pathways still exist. So that should be the thing that gets you excited. But Juan Soto officially off the board, goes to the New York Mets, completely changes the baseball landscape. 15 years, $765 million. It's a contract that we've never seen before. It has upended baseball. But now I think, now that this is going to settle down here over the next couple of hours since this move has been announced, we can now move forth. We can now push ourselves into the next stage of free agency, and that is one where I think the Diamondbacks will strike. Let's get back into the Arizona Cardinals. Let's get back into Kyler Murray. We'll do that here on the other side. It's the lunch break, KDUS AM 1060. We welcome you back into the lunch break. Chris Schubert here with you. We've got you until the top of the hour. The lunch break, KDUS AM 1060, 480-864-1060 is the phone number for you to join us here on this program. Let's dive back into the disappointment yesterday that was the Arizona Cardinals and the questions that we have coming out of this game. And I think the number one glaring question that we have surrounding this team is, do we still believe in the quarterback? And I think that is a conversation that we put to the side. I think it is a conversation that we thought was over. I think it was a conversation that we put in the rearview mirror. And it is a conversation that after the last 3 games and after yesterday is 100% back on the table. That Pandora's box reopened yesterday. It reopened with 2 first-quarter interceptions that doomed the Arizona Cardinals. They melted down yesterday. Kyler Murray melted down yesterday. We talked a little bit earlier in the show about this team having a ceiling with Kyler Murray. And I'm sorry. I know that they were, quote-unquote, ahead of schedule. This team was 6-4 going into the bye week, had one of, if not the easiest schedules the remainder of the season. They've lost all 3 games coming out of the bye week, and they basically have torpedoed their chances of making the playoffs. There has to be some accountability to that. You can be ahead of schedule, but guess what? ASU was ahead of schedule. How's that working out for them? What did they do when they were ahead of schedule? They came through in the big moments. What did this team do when they were ahead of schedule? They folded. That's what they've done the last 3 weeks. They folded. And I think a lot of it goes back to the play of the quarterback. And so I think these last 4 games are really important because I think not making the playoffs is going to be a bummer. Not making the playoffs is going to be a sour note to end this season on its own. If this offense continues to perform this poorly, if Kyler Murray continues to perform this poorly down the stretch, and there are more losses coming for this team, if they don't get to 8 wins, if they are below 500 when the season is over and Kyler doesn't play well the rest of the season, I think it's going to be worse. Because what I think that does, it opens up an entire offseason, an entire summer of wondering, do the Cardinals have a quarterback? Do they have a franchise quarterback? And this sport moves really quickly because we did a segment last week talking about the athletic rankings for quarterbacks and how Kyler Murray was in the bucket of signed, committed, and content, right? And in the group was Jared Goff was in that group, Jalen Hurts was in that group, but also Baker Mayfield and Dak Prescott were in that group. And we said on this show that he was a lot closer, that being Kyler Murray, to Dak Prescott, to Baker Mayfield, than he was Jalen Hurts or Jared Goff. Jalen Hurts, Jared Goff, content, committed, double-digit win teams, fighting it out for the 1 seed, fighting it out to represent the NFC in the Super Bowl. Dak Prescott, hurt, but when he was playing, not playing particularly well, a Cowboys team that was not competing for the NFC East, that was not competing for a playoff spot. Baker Mayfield trying to find his way to win the division. But Baker Mayfield's probably the closest comparison to Kyler Murray because look at the 2 teams, Arizona, Tampa Bay. Look at those 2 franchises. Baker is 7-6 right now. The Cardinals are 6-7. Look what Baker did on Sunday. Look what Baker did yesterday against a bad Raiders team. They took care of business. They got the job done. They won a game after the Vikings had lost, and they put themselves, or after the Vikings had beat the Falcons and the Falcons had lost, they had put themselves in first place in the division. They came through in the big moment. The Cardinals so far post-bye have not. That leads us to ask questions. You have concerns about the coaching staff. We're not talking about firing anybody. We still believe in this coaching staff. But you come out of the bye week, and these are the efforts we get for 3 weeks, you would be stupid to not be a little concerned about what you're seeing. You would be foolish to not at least be like, hello, what's going on here? What are we doing? We were 6-4, 4-game winning streak. Bye came at the perfect time. Second half of the schedule is really nice for this team. And this is what we've gotten for 3 weeks? This is what this has looked like with the playoffs on the line, the division on the line? You would be foolish to not be concerned and to not be looking at these last 4 games through a very critical lens. You want to see the effort over the last 4 games. You want to see this team fight. You want to see this team battle. It might come up short. If it comes up short, we will have an offseason worth of questions to answer. What holes do they need to fix? What went wrong at the end of the season? We will debrief and have all of those conversations when the time comes. But more importantly than that coming up short, if this spirals out of control, if they lose to the Patriots or to the Panthers, and they maybe finish 7-10, we might be asking some really serious questions that we didn't think we were going to be asking. Because I wonder, and it will not lead to change, but I wonder if this thing completely bottoms out, and we're talking about a team that is 7-10 or 8-9 in the offseason, and it completely bottomed out, they went, what would that be, 2-5 post-bye? Think about that just for a second. 6-4 going into the bye. If they only win 2 of their remaining 4 games, they would have finished the year 2-5. Now, you might say it's some level of symmetry because they started the year 2-4. But to end the year 2-5, I think it's not going to make the seats hot, but they are going to be a little warmer than we thought they were ever going to be. Because you have to give me an explanation for 2-5 to close the season. You have to give me an answer to why a team can be in first place and have everything in front of them and be in control and finish the year 2-5. And that's if they split the remaining games on the calendar. There's a possibility they go worse than that. 7-10, you go 1-6 down the stretch, you're going to have to answer for that. And so that is going to lead us to an offseason of wondering, are they making the right decisions? Why isn't this coaching staff getting more? We like this coaching staff. We believe in this coaching staff. Why did they go 2-5 down the stretch? Why did they go 1-6 down the stretch? And that they have to win games. It's not like they already have a couple of wins in the bag. They're 0-3 since the bye. So they got to do some work here to just get us to a place to have the 2-5 conversation. So these last 4 games, they're still mathematically alive for the playoffs. So that is part of the equation. But I'm taking it off the table personally because they are 0-3 since the bye week, and they have looked brutal offensively. So the thing that I need to get answered over the next 4 games, the thing that I'm looking for is Kyler's got to give me something. Kyler has to give me something to point to that he should be the long-term answer, the franchise quarterback for this team. Because right now, I'm starting to think we are going to go back to having that conversation of, do the Cardinals need to move on from Kyler Murray? Because if your ceiling is a 7-8 win operation, potentially if some breaks go your way, a 9 or 10 win operation, and you might be able to get into the playoffs, and you've got a quarterback who can't seemingly do what needs to be done in key moments, we're going to do everybody's favorite game, and that is research in the middle of a segment. I know producer Dylan loves it. It's a high-wire act that he loves to watch me to do here because it requires me to fill while also clicking buttons on the tablet, but I think we're going to do a good job of this because what I am going to try to tell you is I want to know if what my internal process about Kyler Murray is matches the statistics. I want to know if the feeling that I have of a quarterback who doesn't win meaningful games in December matches with how he plays in these months. Now, not all games are created equal when I break this down by month, but these are the month-by-month statistics broken down for Kyler Murray. He has played 17 September games. He is 7-9-1. Okay. Slow starter is the point that we would make there. October, he's played in 23 games, 15-8. October, Kyler Murray hits a groove. November, he's made 14 starts, 4-10. You can start to see the wheels falling off here. December, 20 starts, 7-13, and he's made 4 January starts, and he is 1-3. So November, December, January, 38 starts, 14 in November, 20 in December, 4 in January. 38 starts in what we would describe as the crunch time. November, December, January. He has 12 wins in 38 starts over those 3 months. He has 8 wins in 24 starts in December and January. And I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt. I'm including the games that they've played in December and January when they've been eliminated from contention. And those games don't carry the same weight. So I'm putting them all in a bucket and telling you that he has played 24 games in December and January, and he is 8-16. 8-16 in 24 starts in December and January. He has 12 wins in 38 starts from November through January. That's a problem. That has to get corrected. Here's an opportunity over the last 4 weeks of the season, which includes a couple more December starts and a January start, to change the narrative. It might come up short. It might not mean the division or the playoffs, but Kyler Murray has 4 games remaining this season to change the narrative of how we talk about him. If he doesn't, if he continues to add to this narrative, it is going to be a long, long, long offseason. We wrap up this edition of the Lunch Break with the leftovers. Some more baseball news. We have some NFL news. And I have to laugh at Alabama. I will do that next on the Lunch Break, KDUS AM 1060. Back to wrap up this edition of the Lunch Break. And we wrap up every edition of the Lunch Break in the same fashion. It is the leftovers. It is all the stories and all the topics that we didn't get to throughout the 2 hours jammed in here to the final 15 minutes or so of the program. And there is a lot to get to here in the leftovers. We have a baseball story to talk about. We have 2 college football stories to talk about. Let's first start with the baseball story because it is one that I think could potentially impact the Arizona Diamondbacks. And that story is that officially Roki Sasaki has been posted to Major League Baseball teams, meaning that the bidding, the sales pitches, the meetings for Roki Sasaki can begin, as he was officially posted today to Major League Baseball teams. He's available to sign as a free agent through from Tuesday through 5 p.m. Eastern on January 23rd. So he is 23 years of age. He is subjected to the international signing bonus pool money, and so we will see where he ends up going. This is not about money. This is about what you can offer Roki Sasaki in terms of situation, because the money is going to be similar. Here are the teams that have the most money: the A's, Reds, Tigers, Marlins, Brewers, Twins, Mariners, and Rays. They enter the signing period with $7.5 million available. The Diamondbacks, Orioles, Guardians, Rockies, Royals, and Pirates have $6.9 million. The Braves, Red Sox, Cubs, White Sox, Angels, Mets, Yankees, Phillies, Padres, Rangers, Blue Jays, Nationals. A lot of teams. They're at $6.2 million. The Astros and Cardinals have $5.6, and the Dodgers and Giants have $5.1. Now, some of that money is allocated already to deals, and you can also trade for more space. There's a cap on the amount that you can trade for, but you can trade for space and increase that budget that you have. So we will see who Roki Sasaki and his team take meetings with. We will see which teams try to maneuver some pieces around to acquire international signing period money. And we will see ultimately where Roki Sasaki ends up. But wherever he ends up, this is one of the top free agent pitchers. I know Corbin Burns is out there. I know Max Fried is still out there. But Roki Sasaki at 23 years of age, this is the most coveted free agent pitcher that we have this offseason. Yamamoto was the big fish last year, $325 million from the Dodgers. Roki Sasaki is not going to get that much, but he is going to be one of the better pitchers that has hit free agency in a long time in baseball. So we will keep an eye on that. But it officially happened today. He has been posted, and he is available to be signed as a free agent through 5 p.m. on January 23rd. If he is unable to come to terms with the team, I don't think that will happen, but it is a possibility. If we get to January 23rd, 5 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. for us here in Arizona, and he is not signed, then he goes back to Japan. He goes back to his team in Japan, and they can try this again next year. But I think the full expectation is that he is going to sign somewhere relatively soon, because the clock is ticking. It's a 45-day window, and so that takes us through January 23rd. So that's the baseball story. We will keep an eye on any other baseball happenings, and I do expect this week to get pretty busy on the show when it comes to baseball signings, and I fully anticipate the Diamondbacks to be heavily involved this week. And I would not be surprised if we have a signing or two, or players that the Diamondbacks could be interested in going someplace else, and we can discuss what the pivots are, what the plan B, plan C, plan D is if, let's say, Christian Walker signs with the Yankees, or Christian Walker signs with the Mets, or wherever Christian Walker ends up, or if, Paul Goldschmidt signs someplace else, or one of the DH options just comes off the board. Whatever the case may be, I think this is going to be a busy week for us to talk about the Arizona Diamondbacks. So we will have you covered all week long in that regard. A story that I laughed at on, I think it was Friday's show. It was at some point last week. I laughed at the idea of Bill Belichick taking a head coaching gig in college football. I believe it was a Friday story. Producer Dylan was either here or he wasn't here. Were you here for this story? If you were here for this story, then it was probably Friday. Because if you weren't, then it was probably Thursday and it was producer Corey. But I think you were here, so I think it was Friday's show where we talked about Bill Belichick potentially becoming the next head coach at North Carolina, and how I just thought this whole situation was extremely just weird across the board. It just didn't make a whole lot of sense. Well, he had his regular Monday spot on Pat McAfee today, and maybe we'll come back with some of this sound tomorrow and dive into it a little bit more, because he said something that I found very interesting and might sound familiar to those of us here in Arizona. But he did confirm during his spot that he had conversations with the University of North Carolina. And by the way, those conversations have continued. So they had the preliminary talks. Reportedly, one of the caveats for Belichick to take the job is that his son, Steven, would be named the de facto coach in waiting. So that when Belichick either retires or leaves to go to an NFL job, or whatever the case may be, that Steven Belichick would be the person in line to get that job next. It appears as if North Carolina is on board with that. They have not rejected that proposal, that they have not rejected that caveat being included. But I still come back to this place of, why would Bill do this? He's chasing down an NFL wins record in the NFL. He's chasing down the regular season wins record for a head coach. He's 73 years old. I can't see him recruiting the way that you need to recruit in college football when it comes to the transfer portal, when it comes to high school recruiting. I just can't see it. I can't see him doing what needs to be done in order to turn this program into something. And it's also not like he's walking into an Alabama or a Texas or a Georgia or name a big-time program. Listen, you can throw Arizona State in there, college football playoff, Arizona State, big-time program. He's not walking into one of those schools. He's walking into North Carolina. Not a school that he has history with. Not a school that he went to. It's not his alma mater. It's not a school where that's where he cut his teeth coaching as a position coach. He didn't do any of that. So I think two things are possible here. I said on Friday, it's because they are throwing a number in front of him that is absolutely absurd for a college coach. And number two, this might be the most important thing, and I'm surprised I didn't think of it on Friday. Do you think Bill knows he's actually not going to get any job offers this offseason? Because we said on Friday, hey, the Saints job might be open. The Giants job might be open. The Jets job is open, although we don't think you're going to take that. The Browns job could be open. The Jags job could be open. The Bears job is going to be open. There are a lot of jobs that are going to be open. Why would Bill not wait to see that through before seeing what his other options are? He's doing pretty good in media. He's getting paid a decent living wage. I think he's doing fine for himself, doing all this TV stuff. I think he's going to be okay. He can wait another year. But what if he's starting to get the feeling, and his agent and his representation are starting to get the feeling that he's not going to get any phone calls because teams don't want to bring in Bill Belichick and also deal with Bill the GM and Bill the coach, because maybe Bill does still want to retain the type of control that he had in New England. Because remember, he was not just the head coach in New England, he was also the GM. So he shopped for the groceries and then also cooked the meal. A lot of teams, most teams, the GM puts together the roster, the coach coaches the roster. There is some level of collaboration. But Bill Belichick was not only negotiating contracts with players, but then he would have to go out and coach those players that he just negotiated with for contract extensions or for free agent deals. He liked having that type of say in matters. And so there was a lot of talk of, would he go to a place that didn't give him that control, that wanted to have a GM, a director of football operations, somebody overseeing the player personnel side of things, and didn't want to give that control to Bill. Well, guess what? If you go to North Carolina or you go to any college program, they're going to give you that control. If you're North Carolina, look at this from North Carolina's perspective. And I think this is the thing I forgot to do on Friday. From North Carolina's perspective, Bill Belichick is a Hall of Fame coach. He is a home run hire, just from his pure coaching perspective. There are players, there are high school recruits, there are guys in the transfer portal that would want to be coached by Bill Belichick. So why wouldn't you give him full control? And in college, and I think we are going to start to see teams move away from this, but at least for right now, it's not the case. When you're the head coach, you oversee everything. I think we're going to get to a place where you're going to have GMs in college sports. Watch. In the next 3 years, you're going to see a big-time program do this, where they're going to hire somebody that's going to be noteworthy. It's going to be a big GM-type name, maybe a castaway from the NFL, and they're going to bring that person in to oversee their operation and be the GM that is looking at the transfer portal, that is looking at players that they think might be disgruntled because of the playing time they're getting someplace else, and take that big picture view while the coach handles the day-to-day stuff. You watch. That is my big prediction for the next couple of years in college sports. It's going to very much resemble what the pro game looks like. But for right now, that's not necessarily the case. So Bill would have full control. And if you're North Carolina, why wouldn't you give him full control? And so maybe he feels that he still wants that control, and he's not going to get it from the NFL. He's not going to get it from the Bears or the Saints or the Jags or the Giants. And so this is his path to have the say that he still wants. We'll see. I am still in, I'll believe it when I see it. This guy still is chasing down the regular season NFL wins record for a head coach. I still think that's his North Star. I still think that is the thing that drives him to still be in coaching. I don't think it's taking the North Carolina Tar Heels head coaching job. I could be proven wrong. I will believe it when I see it, but I do not think that this will end up happening. But it is becoming more serious than I thought it was when the story first broke. So credit to Bill, I guess, for entertaining something that I didn't think he would entertain. So that's college story number one. College story number two has to do with the college football playoff. There was one team left out of the college football playoff. The committee decided to take SMU over Alabama. They made that decision that they valued SMU, losers of the ACC championship game, over a 3-loss Alabama team that did not play in their conference championship. And Greg Byrne, the Alabama athletic director, said after they were left out of the college football playoff, 9-3 Alabama, didn't play in the SEC championship game, Alabama. They were left out of the 12-team college football playoff field. He said that they would reassess the non-conference scheduling. Quote, "We have said that we would need to see how strength of schedule would be evaluated by the college football playoff. With this outcome, we will need to assess how many Power 4 non-conference games make sense in the future to put us in the best position to participate in the college football playoff. That is not good for college football." He posted on Twitter late Saturday night, "Strength of schedule matters. Not all schedules and conferences are created equal. 6 of our 8 wins are against bowl-eligible teams and have come against some of the top teams in the SEC, including SEC champion Georgia." Let me be the first to let Greg Byrne in on something that I think is very important. Alabama didn't lose a non-conference game this season. Alabama played the following opponents in non-conference games this season. Western Kentucky, they won 63-0. South Florida, they won 42-16. They went to Wisconsin and won 42-10. And then in the middle of the year, they played Mercer and beat them 52-7. That was the non-conference schedule for Alabama in the SEC. They went 4-0. So all of this noise about, it's our non-conference schedule. Well, you didn't play anybody. And by the way, you went 4-0 in that conference. Your losses, you lost to Vanderbilt. That's on you, man. That's not on scheduling. That's on you. You lost to Oklahoma 24-3 in Norman. That's on you, man. Okay, you played a close game to Tennessee and lost. You're allowed one of those. But you're not allowed Vandy. You're not allowed Oklahoma. Your non-conference schedule had nothing to do with you being left out. What had everything to do with you being left out is losing to Vandy, is losing to Oklahoma. So if you scheduled all cupcakes if you played a bunch of Mercers who you beat 52-7, you played Robert Morris or a bunch of just bad football teams, that wouldn't have changed this year for you because you still lost to Vandy. You still lost to Oklahoma. Games you shouldn't have lost. So I'm sorry, but I'm not breaking out the violin for Alabama. You've been on the other side of this and have gotten a lot of benefit of the doubt. You didn't deserve it this year. Be better in your conference. That'll change things. That'll do it for the Monday edition of the program. We are back tomorrow. We will continue to debrief from the Cardinals' loss. We got more Sun stuff to get into, more MLB winter meeting stuff. I hope everybody has a great rest of their Monday. We will talk to you tomorrow. See ya!